Welcome everyone. It's 12:04. We should get started, and I want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Multi-Town Gas Leaks Initiative. So glad to see so many people here. First, I want to thank everybody for your patience with our slow process in this time of COVID, but I guess that's not really a surprise. I want to assure you that we're swinging back into action, regular 2021 meeting dates, and continuing to pursue our goals around fixing the gas leaks. The few of us that are on the facilitation team have had several planning meetings recently and have come up with a new plan for 2021, including plans for 4 meetings a year with National Grid staff and twice a year without National Grid staff. Also, if you're new to this group, we want to especially welcome you. Part of our plan for 2021 is to expand the number of municipalities that are part of our group. So if you're new, we will see you in the attendance or registration list, but please consider shooting one of us an email or putting your name and address in the chat and a little bit about why you're here. So we're glad to have you here and want to know about you and your interest. I'm going to quickly review the agenda for today. The first 25 minutes is going to be about HEET geothermal microdistrict pilot projects. Presentation by Audrey Schulman, co-executive director of HEET, talking about that, and we'll leave at least 10 minutes for questions and answers on that. You can put your questions in the chat or raise your hand or your virtual hand in real time while we're talking, and we should have some good dialogue. Next at 12:30, Amy Smith of National Grid and her staff will join us and explain their newest quarterly data on leaks, which is our plan for all those quarterly meetings where National Grid will be present. We'll also have time for Q&As during this period. So again, put your questions in the chat. And then finally, Lisa Olney from Wellesley and of our facilitator team will do a wrap up, or she's going to do a online survey or poll about your interest in what you most want to see in our 2021 meetings. I hope people can stay for this because it's really important. This is not really our meeting, it's your meeting. We need and want to hear what people care about the most. She's also going to announce those tentative 2021 meeting dates so that you can at least pencil them into your calendar. If there are things that need to be changed, we would announce it at least a month before, but we're pleased to be starting with solid dates. So thank you again for coming. I'll now pass it on to Audrey Schulman, co-executive director of HEET.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm going to share screen, if that's okay. Hold on. Share. There we go. Hopefully you are seeing now. It looks like you're seeing my notes too, or no? Okay, good. So HEET's a small nonprofit with missions to cut carbon emissions now by driving a systems change. We don't take funding from gas companies or geothermal industry. Hold on. So here in Massachusetts, as probably all of you know, our natural, our infrastructure is really old, including natural gas pipes underneath the ground. Here's a detail of the National Grid map showing 2 pipes still in use in Boston, dating back to the 1800s. You can imagine pipes that old are probably going to leak. The result is a lot of gas leaks across the state. These leaks aren't just dangerous potentially, but they also impact the climate disproportionately. Since natural gas is overwhelmingly methane, a greenhouse gas that's 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide over the first 20 years. So that means that if CO2 acts like one blanket on the earth, warming it, then the same amount of methane is equivalent to 84 blankets. So the gas companies utterly understand this, both the safety and the emissions part, and they're busy replacing the leak-prone gas pipes. Here are just 5 years of utility reported work sites. As many of you know in your municipality, we are becoming the state of orange cones. So a local economics clinic has estimated that the total cost of this statewide pipe replacement over the next 20 years will be greater than the depreciated value of the system that's in the ground now. And these pipes are being installed now, will be amortized over 40 years. That means we're going to be paying for these pipes past the point when our state's net zero mandate is enacted in 2050, that past the point when we're going to be using gas widespread, if at all. So what alternatives are there to get heating and cooling for our buildings? One option is air source heat pumps. They're great under many circumstances, but they have 3 problems. One, they work most inefficiently when the temperature is the worst, straining the electric grid right when you need it the most. 2, you tend to need discretionary income or good credit to get these, so it locks out a lot of low income from getting it. 3, moving everyone onto air source heat pumps would require the collapse of the gas industry with its many workers and inevitably some customers still on that system. So a different option is ground source heat pumps, or as it's sometimes called, geothermal. This is a lot less of a burden on the grid since it continues to work efficiently no matter how cold or hot it is outside, because the ground is always the same temperature, close, somewhere in the 50s, close to the temperature we want in our homes. However, you still have the other problems. You need a lot of money or good credit to afford them. And if we all moved to these single building installations, the gas industry collapse. Finally, these single building installations add an additional problem, which is thermal balance over time. Here in Massachusetts, given our climate, we need a lot more heating than cooling. Over time, that means we extract more heat from the ground, making the ground colder. And that makes the system become less efficient. So to answer these problems, we came up with the Microdistrict, a system of networked geothermal. Unlike the gas system, the infrastructure can be in the street with service lines going to each building. There are boreholes attached going down just a few hundred feet, not into the Earth's core. The pipes are filled with plain water. Heat pumps in each building pull off the heating or cooling that each building needs, pulling that temperature from the water. The system can be installed around the existing infrastructure in the street. And if the gas utilities install and own this, we can share the cost of the system across all of us and over decades, like we do with the gas system now. This business model is sort of strangely familiar to a gas company because it's pumping energy through pipes in the ground. So a network geothermal is different from single building installations in the same way that the internet is sort of different from a standalone computer. There's synergies that happen. So imagine a supermarket with its fridges humming all the way through the winter. It's going to be pulling cold off the system and rejecting heat into that shared loop of water, making the water hotter. That heat can then be used by the homes down the street. The second benefit is that excess energy, for instance, heat in the middle of the summer, can be stored in the ground until it's needed months or years later in the winter. I guess months later in the winter. So to find out if this would work, we hired Barrow Happold Engineering, an international engineering company, the one who created New York City's 80 by 50 plan, to perform a statewide feasibility study to see how the system might work in Massachusetts in different types of streets. They calculated hourly energy loads for different types of streets from suburban to very urban ones, and they checked those results against the real customer data provided by Eversource Energy. They found that this system, with boreholes constrained to 500 feet deep, spaced every 20 feet down the street, could meet nearly 100% of the energy demand of most of our state. With the dense part of cities, we'd have to make the boreholes a little bit deeper to provide enough energy, or put boreholes in parking lots, or as we interconnect the segments, we can move any excess energy that you can see here, the heating and the cooling, to where it's needed in the cities. So geomicrodistricts are designed to interconnect like Lego blocks. So with that first pilot in the ground, we can iterate, backing the gas system up over time, moving the excess energy to where it's needed, increasing efficiency and resilience until we're left with the gas backup only in the city. Possibly this is an appropriate role and scale for biogas or hydrogen. These systems are more reliable than the gas system because they're interconnected and bidirectional. So if any one of the heat pumps break, the other pumps can serve as backup. And in this way, we can transform gas companies into companies whose job it is to move the excess or stored energy to where it's needed, balancing the heating needs against our cooling needs. One case study that currently exists is at Colorado Mesa University. There are 4 geomicrodistricts that have been installed over the last 15 years and interconnected. They serve over 1 million square feet of buildings. Further expansion is planned. It's not run by a utility, and its boreholes are not in the street, but in fields. But the design other than that is the same: ambient temperature, bidirectional central pumping. So their gas backup boilers at Colorado Mesa University have not had to fire up except for maintenance purposes in over 8 years. So from Colorado Mesa, as well as from the feasibility study, I can tell you the benefits. First off, the energy bills go down in comparison to gas. And that makes sense, since once you install it, you only have to pay for operations, maintenance, and the electricity bills for the water and the heat pumps. The Colorado Mesa University cost $8.5 million, and it's saving the campus over $1 million a year. Secondly, the feasibility study found that in Massachusetts, there'd be a 60% reduction in emissions immediately. As the electric grid uses more renewables, those emissions should reduce further. Unlike gas, water in a pipe doesn't explode. So if there are any leaks, it just waters the nearby trees. And of course, using a more efficient process cuts electric grid peaks. That's going to cut the electric customer costs for everyone, and allow us to move to electricity faster, which can then be produced faster from renewables. The shared loop also uses the same type of pipes that gas workers use, so the workers can easily retrain. And finally, with other renewable energies that get produced when they aren't needed, like wind power at night, we can store that wind power as heating or as cooling in the ground to be used later, because the Earth is basically the biggest energy storage system we have, and it's as cheap as dirt. We've been talking to the utilities about this for about a little bit over 2 years, and I'm thrilled to say that Eversource Gas requested permission to install 3 different pilots of this, and they made that request in November of last year, and they were approved to install one of these systems, and that approval came in last month. So they get to spend $10 million installing, owning, and maintaining the infrastructure for a networked geothermal system in the street. They will pay for the heat pumps and the efficiencies in all the buildings that are connected to the system. For the customers, it's an incredible deal because for a home, it's only going to cost a fixed energy bill. So it's $20 a month. And that provides both heating and cooling. it's $5 a month if you are low income. And the commercial energy bills are not yet determined, but they are will be quite low also. They are looking currently for sites. So it has to be an Eversource gas territory. That includes Hyde Park, Mattapan, Cambridge, Somerville, Worcester, Fall River. So if any of you know people who might want this, please tell us. We're looking for sites now. It has to be a dense urban environment. There should be around 100 homes and businesses connected, and we'd prefer to have some low-income homes as part of this. And preferably, ideally, it would be near leak-prone infrastructure so that the system can grow over time, rather than replacing the leak-prone infrastructure. And it would be a mix of new developments and existing buildings. We need the site by February, and the system will be installed, to be determined by February. The system will be installed in the street next summer, and it will be turned on next fall. If you have a site, please email us at info@heatmod.org. But all of you are probably much more interested in the fact that National Grid has also requested to pilot this. They requested in November. The DPU decision will come out approximately next October. If any of you want to submit a comment letter on this, it would be great. We can help together make this, the best possible, pilot or pilots. The request they've currently put is to do networked geothermal to serve the equivalent of about 200 units, both homes and businesses. So HEET is putting together a research team, which includes many illustrious organizations, including MIT and Harvard, and 2 national labs. We're going to help, assuming we can get the funding, to do a design review to make sure that the pilots are installed, designed correctly, installed correctly, and that there's standardization of the data so that all of them can be compared well. And we will be doing quarterly charrettes to allow everybody to sort of surface potential problems before they happen, and to make sure that we all have input so that it is done well. Let me just say that here is our current gas system in Boston. And some of these pipes date back to when Lincoln was president. So imagine the people putting in those first few pipes. They were not thinking ahead probably to where we currently are. But here is our opportunity now to think ahead into this, to the next 100, 150 years. Let's think ahead and install the system that we want for for those next 100 and 150 years. Where we can transform the current gas system to the system that will work for us far into the future. And that is it. So if anybody wants, here's some references and resources. And I assume we'll send this out to anybody who wants to. Questions? And should I just read them off the chat, I guess? Or
I'm happy to moderate the Q&A if that's helpful, Audrey, and I'll just pull. So just one question so far in the chat, but if you have questions now for Audrey, please drop them in the chat. And Lisa asks, is the National Grid pilot also likely to require a dense urban environment like the Eversource pilot?
I don't know what they're gonna require. I know that they do want mixed energy use, so both commercial and businesses, both businesses and homes. I don't know a lot more than that. I haven't had a chance to read through the rate case very carefully. So if anybody wants, I can send the extraordinarily large rate case information to whoever wants to peruse it. I will know more soon.
Great. And I see Nancy from Brookline with her hand up. Nancy, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I was just putting it in the chat, but I'm curious as to the role of municipalities in these pilots and eventually, hopefully, the system. And it's clear that you're going to have to be tearing up the streets in order to put the piping in. And I'm wondering whether the National Grid and Eversource Gas would expect to do those repairs and do the tear up and do the repair at the end, and what other roles for municipalities would be involved?
So it would be the same as the gas system currently, where they would do the installation and the repair afterward. And our hope is that that will happen rather than having them replace the leak-prone infrastructure with new fossil fuel infrastructure, because we know we won't want that gas infrastructure for long, given our state's mandate to reduce emissions. And so therefore it will reduce the amount of streets ripped up in towns over time, if that makes sense. Like, let's just install one system and let's make sure it's the system we want for the future. I think the town's role in this, could be huge. You know your needs, and you know what will serve your cities best or towns best. So this, the comment period with the National Grid rate case is either now or it will soon be open for comments. So I strongly recommend that you write in to the DPU and we can send directions on how to do that to make sure that your needs are met by this.
Well, I'm assuming, just one follow-up on this, I'm assuming that National Grid or Eversource Gas or whomever would pick up the cost of tearing up and repairing the streets.
Yes, yeah, that's why yes, they pay for it, they do the work, they install it. It's the same as the gas system.
Right, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy.
Right now they try to piggyback on when we're ripping up a street to fix it.
Yeah.
So but that could happen too, I suppose.
Yes, and I think that would, I assume everybody would prefer that, because then the street is only ripped up once. Right. It costs less, there's less disruption, the residents are happier. So yeah, I always believe in synergies. And it's supposed to be that 50% of the cost of this installation is simply in digging up the street.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Question from Ellie Goldberg about why the approval will take so long. I assume that's in reference to the National Grid pilot.
The DPU approvals for rate cases always take about 11 months. So that's why it takes so long.
Great.
But, and there was another question that was to me privately, so everybody else didn't see it, but any town, any site in National Grid territory can now start to volunteer, so that we have a huge list available for them to look at, assuming that they do get approval. So please, if you do have a site, no matter what gas territory it is in, please email the site to info@heatma.org, and I'll put that in the chat too.
Okay, great. I think that probably answered Jennifer's question from the Lincoln Board of Selectmen about how to partner with National Grid to think about how to move forward on this. Great. Alicia from Medford asks, how does the ownership of the equipment and homes work? I imagine it will be very hard to get 100% cooperation from homeowners in the area.
Yeah, so you need the majority of the people on the street to agree to the system, right? So if there's one guy at the end of the street who just loves his gas stove, he can go on to, possibly onto propane, or perhaps, and I don't know National Grid's opinion on this, so I'm speaking on my own, right? But, or possibly the gas system at that moment would not be taken out, but left until everybody converted. So there's a variety, it doesn't necessarily have to mean everybody on the street agrees, but the vast majority does, if that makes sense.
Great. Question here about, so Christine Rabinowitz asks, does the deep digging with so many links interrupt any natural system like an aquifer? And I was also thinking when you were talking, Audrey, about changing the temperature of soils, whether that would have any impact either.
So this is, and excuse my dog barking in the background, but this is a closed loop system. So it does not, it's only filled up once with water, and it doesn't interact in any way with any aquifers nearby. So it doesn't use a lot of water, doesn't contaminate nearby water. If it does leak, it's just 100% water, or at least that's the system we're suggesting. Was there any, did I answer all that well enough?
I think, yeah, I think that.
Oh yeah, and in terms of heating up the ground, it's only heating it up by a few degrees of temperature. Right. It's not like going to, it's not boiling the ground or cooling the ground. It has to be kept within 90 degrees approximately to 40 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's not a, huge temperature difference.
And I think that's an important distinction to make, as opposed to like a standard water-based district energy system. These are heat pump systems that are. Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. I see Jane.
It works like your fridge does. Heat pumps do. They just pull. They move cold. They move temperature rather than create it, combust anything. Go ahead. Sorry.
Jane Hotchkiss, I see you with your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Sure. I was busy typing it in, and I apologize for my slowness on that. I was just wondering, is the pilot only tied to the gas leaks program, or the leak prone pipes program, or could it be offered as an option to new gas expansion? Or right now, Concord's facing a application by National Grid to expand or to replace an existing pipe system so that it can expand its service territory. Well, they have not said expanded to new, but deliver more reliable gas infrastructure to some of Concord, but mostly across of Route 2 into Lincoln.
Yeah, so it can be where there's a new development, and in some way, or where there's delivered fuels, or right. Anything like that. Or where there's capacity constraints. My particular fascination is with not spending money on new fossil fuel infrastructure. But this can be used anywhere to offset either new gas system or any, it's a great system. If that
right. I mean, we've been considering or attempting to look at, although it was struck down in Brookline, a similar no new gas approach in Concord. And, meanwhile, they're under separate applications. There's National Grid is looking to increase the size of its pipe system.
Yeah, so this would be a way to potentially avoid that, or at least reduce the need for it.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks. So it's a little after 12:30. I want to transition us quickly to the National Grid leak report summary with Amy Smith from National Grid. But thank you so much, Audrey, for that great presentation. And I think there are a few unanswered questions in the chat. So if you want to add any other thoughts and responses to folks.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Audrey. Amy, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Do you have visuals that you want to share? I think I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen if you want to, or I can also bring those up if you shoot them.
I'm going to try. I'm sometimes I have to zoom off my iPad. It's blocked on my computer, so sometimes I have trouble getting it to share off the iPad. So I'm going to try. If I fail, I'll send these to you quickly so you can get them up.
Okay, no worries.
Uh,
Earlier in the meeting, we were talking about the need for some welcome intro music, and I feel like this is where we would also
That's right. You can if
insert
someone who can hum or sing wants to do that, just give me
Jeopardy
a
theme
second.
song or something like that as
Yeah.
waiting music.
All right. I'm gonna try here. Let's see if it just goes. Let's see, done. Nope. Let's try this again. Oh, gosh. All right. Sharing a copy and I'm not going to try too many times. How about this? Can you see it?
Oh,
Did I
there we go.
do it?
That looks like something. Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Awesome. Oh, good. It lets me do that too. So thanks everybody. And I apologize. I couldn't join at the beginning. I had a late request to appear in Rhode Island. So unfortunately I had to deal with that, but thanks. Sounds like you're having a great discussion about geothermal. So sorry to have missed it. So I'm going to give you your, this is our quarterly gas leak update. So we're just building on the information we presented to you last time we met. And this is information that's up to date as of September 30th, 2020, when we would have filed our updates with the DPU on a quarterly basis. So just in general, you can see we've, our total grade 3 leaks we have on the books are about 9,700. And within that 9,700, you can see we have 725 G3 SEIs of the smaller variety. Those are the environmentally significant leaks, and 34 of the larger significant leaks. So we're running percentage wise around where Audrey always told us we would, at about 7% of our totals. And just a couple of things to point out, we do keep leaks on the books for a little bit of time, even if we do get 0 reads. So when we go around the next survey cycle, we can confirm if the reads have still gone back to 0. It's about 22% of what's in that backlog there. So that's why you see some fluctuation back and forth. Just the general properties of gas migration may just be when we go back to take another read or another survey that the gas is no longer present in the area. Or the other thing it could mean is that we actually replaced the main in that area, but our records, our asset records just haven't caught up with our leak survey records yet. So we're going and surveying what's essentially new pipe in the area. I've got some details here for you on the open environmentally significant leaks. And what this slide is telling you here of the total of 759 leaks, about half of them, or 330, are on pipe that we plan to replace through our gas system enhancement program, or GSAP, that's our leak prone pipe replacement program. Or they're located on that pipe. And so I guess the goal would be for us to be able to just replace the pipe rather than go fix the leak and then have to replace the pipe afterwards. The other half are on pipe that will not be replaced, or a little bit more than half, through our main replacement program. And so those we will be doing the leak repair on the timelines that are required for the DPU rules, which is within 2 years for the smaller environmentally significant leaks, and within a year of discovery for the larger leaks, unless they're in areas that are inaccessible, and in which case we just continue to work with whoever we need to get access to fix the leak. But sometimes they're located under MBTA tracks or other hard to reach areas, and so it takes a significant amount of negotiation to be able to get the repair done. And just wanted to give you a little bit of information as well about the leaks we have repaired so far this year. So again, this is through the end of September 30th, and we're still pretty much in our active leak repair season, although things do start to slow down a bit this time of year as many communities have imposed their winter digging moratoriums. In addition to that, earlier this year, we were impacted in many communities, and especially in Boston, where they prohibited us from doing any non-emergency work in the street in the early phases of the pandemic. They've since relaxed those rules and we've been working, but we're conscious of the fact that they may reimpose some restrictions depending on where the pandemic takes us over the next couple of months. So in total, we've eliminated 5,400 leaks from our system this year. And most of those are done through active leak repair. The rest are mostly done through the main replacement program, or in some cases, you see that eliminated otherwise category. Oftentimes in our system, we find we have duplicate leaks. It's the same leak, but it's been reported at 2 separate addresses based on who reported the gas odor. And so when we go and we actually do the repair, we make sure we don't eliminate the duplicate leak from our system until after we make the repair, and we certify that that one repair got rid of the gas leak that had been recorded at the 2 separate addresses. So it's a record keeping cleanup as well. And the reason we do that is we don't like to lose leaks in our system. So we'd rather have duplicates than remove something that was actually a leak and then miss fixing it. Here. And then some information here again about the number of new leaks that we found here throughout the course of the year. So in over the first 3 quarters of this year, we identified 1,100 new grade 3 leaks on our system. And you can see 70 of them are grade 3 SEIs, or the large volume SEIs. So again, we're running percentage wise around the same totals that we would expect to see for SEIs as well. And then again, just looking more specifically at the grade 3 leak repairs, so a subset of the total repairs that we did, we've removed 714 leaks so far of the grade 3 variety from our system this year. 54 of them are G3 SEIs. We still have some more to do. Again, we've got till the end of the year, to give you a final total for the year on those. But the vast majority are the non-environmentally significant leaks that have either been repaired or the main's been replaced, or the leak has been eliminated through either because of multiple 0 reads at the address or because it was designated as a duplicate on our system. And then finally, this is just an update to the map that I showed you last time. There's really been no change in the ranking of communities by number of open leaks that we have here. And so this is really just sort of a fixed point in time view of where the environmentally significant leaks are clustered throughout our system. So with that, that concludes the slides in my presentation, but I'm here and available to take any questions that you may have. We'll see what we can do to answer today. And if we can't get you an answer today, we certainly will get back to you within a couple of days with any updated info.
Thanks, Amy. I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but if folks do have questions for Amy and National Grid, please either drop them in the chat or feel free to raise your hand if you want to unmute and ask your question. And I guess, Amy, just a question that I have, this is now our second of these quarterly webinars, and we're planning to do one each quarter next year as well. We really appreciate you all keeping us updated on the status and the reports that you're making to the DPU. If we wanted to be, just sort of tracking this data over time, is there, should we be looking at the reports on the DPU website? Or I'm just thinking, like, it'd be great to sort of be tracking in a spreadsheet or something like that, the number of SEIs that you guys have on a quarterly or annual basis to see, you know, are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Like, where are we at? And sort of to help us get a through line or a sense of the trend and trajectory of leak repair and elimination work. So any thoughts on how we might build that?
Yeah, so a couple things I can, for next time, if you'd like, I could add some like a historical perspective slide so we can see maybe over the last 5 years or over the last 10 years how the leaks have trended in terms of receipts and repairs on the system. You could certainly cull it all together yourself from the DPU reports info. I'm not sure if Audrey or Dom have done that themselves, and they very well may have, but I'm happy to include a slide or two with a little bit of historical detail as well. And we've refocused our main replacement program a little bit as well, based on recommendations from the dynamic risk report that the state had, an independent audit of gas safety that was published early last year. Recommended that our main replacement program include a greater focus on elimination of leaks. And so you'll see for our upcoming replacement program for the calendar year 2021, we're going to be shifting our focus to replacing a larger percentage of the cast iron mains where the majority of our leaks occur, in an effort to drive those new leak receipt rates down more substantially over time. So looking at the pipe that's most likely to leak and prioritizing that within our repair programs. So good question. We can, I can send some sample stuff over what I'm thinking and
yeah, that'd be great. And I think some of that, the historical context would be really helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. So question from Kevin Duffy from Watertown. How can a resident get a status update about a reported and identified leak?
So starting, I believe, in early January, we are going to have a place on our website where a link where you can go and just send an email and get an answer. But until that's live, if you have a specific address that you're interested in, just send me the info and we'll get you an update on that. And that would be great. If you want to send it to Brooks and have him send it to me, or I just have amy.smith@nationalgrid.com. It's not a hard email to find or remember, but I'm happy to give you updates on any individual leaks on the system.
Great. Faye, I see you with your actual hand up, not your virtual hand. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I don't know what LVL means. I know what G3 SEI means, but what is LVL?
Large volume, I believe, right? It's just those are the leaks that are where the square footage of the migration pattern of the gas is more than 10,000 square feet. And then the non-LVLs, the migration pattern is between 2,000 and 999 square feet. Just it's a size, really.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Great. Couple other questions in the chat here for you, Amy, that I'll read out. So Judy Hodge says that there were gas lines replaced on High Street in Acton recently after years of gas smells and leaks, a big improvement for walkers and residents. So thanks for that exciting update, Judy. And Susan Hounds asked, are more leaks being found than are being repaired in a given year? And how can we address that? So basically, is the number going up over time or down? And I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. Yeah, I can that one I can take. So When it comes to the grade 1 and the grade 2 leaks, the hazardous and the likely to become hazardous leaks, we find them. The grade 1s, we find them, we'll repair them immediately. The grade 2s, we find them and we fix them within 12 months. For the grade 3s, it really depends on the year and the leak find rates. In general, we're fixing about as many as we find, or sometimes a bit fewer than we find, because other than the SEIs and the SEI LVLs, we're not, their leaks are not hazardous and there is no requirement to repair them. So when we have crews available, or if the leak has become a nuisance, or there's been a specific request for the grade 3, we will repair it. And again, if we have, if the leak volumes are low and we have crews who have time and they can tackle leaks that have no repair requirement, we'll send them out to repair those leaks as well. So it's going to vary from year to year, but the grade 3 backlog stays pretty consistent in total year over year. So I think that indicates that we keep up with the incoming, but it's hard to make progress at reducing the others, which is again why we're reorienting some of our main replacement program miles to be able to help drive that down. And I think you'll see over the next 3 to 5 years that backlog number is going to start going down below that 9,000 level.
Great. Okay, and your presentation was short and sweet, Amy, so we have plenty of time for some more of the questions that are coming in here. So let me see. How can we get the addresses of the grade 3 SEI large volume leak locations and when each leak was submitted?
Yeah,
and then maybe a related question to that, I also saw one, is there information about the type of pipe and specifically like where the cast iron pipes are in each community?
Yeah, so let me tell you. So one, I think Dom actually answered the where can I get the list.
Oh, great, thanks,
He
Dom.
has it and he's happy to share
Already
it. So,
on it.
And we do report the locations in the DPU report, so it's there. But if anyone has trouble finding it, again, we're happy to provide that info. But thanks Dom, bailing me out once again, so appreciate it. And then I'm sorry, the second question was around the type of pipe.
The type of pipe, yeah.
Yes. So in general, yes, we know where our pipe is. We can let you know where we're targeting the main replacements this year. What we don't do is make publicly available maps of our system for security reasons. So we're happy to show them, but we don't leave them behind or send them out to people to maintain due to just concerns about people with ill intent doing harm to the system. The interesting thing about gas leaks is when we have them on our system, on many streets, we may have multiple mains and we may have some cast iron, some steel, or some plastic. So we don't always know. It's hard to tell sometimes what pipe the leak is on until we actually dig a hole and find what's leaking. And oftentimes the gas is migrating in a direction that's away from the pipe. So it's not always clear if it's coming from the pipe on this side of the street or that side of the street. So we make a guess, and I think I had in one of my slides, I can just, let me see if I just scroll back here. So this slide so essentially when we say pipe, the leak is on GSEP pipe. Again, we're guessing based on proximity to the main in the area in our system. The dark blue line, which is the GSEP pipe, that's going to be cast iron and bare steel. We have a lot of predominantly cast iron, especially in cities. It's a typically low or intermediate pressure main. So low pressure main, meaning the pressure is no higher than, is below 28 inches water column for those who understand, who have a physics background. And elevated pressure is pressure at a pound and up to our intermediate pressure system, which is the great big cast iron pipes. Those are the ones you could stand up inside of, joints up to about 36 inches in diameter. And again, predominantly in urban areas. It's, you notice our number one on our list again for leaks is Newton. Newton is predominantly a cast iron area. In fact, when you look at the sort of the top leak totals on this list, those are all cities that have a higher percentage of cast iron pipe than bare steel pipe in there. So, and usually the rule is if it's an older urban area, the gas system went in many, many years ago when the predominant material that we used was cast iron.
Got it. Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
So I also, so you mentioned that you anticipate that in January there will be a page on the National Grid website with some resources. Could you just talk a little bit more about your plans for that and what's going to be on that page? And I think it's sort of in part an outgrowth of the working groups that we had tried to launch and then were interfered with by COVID earlier this year. So yeah, just curious if you can give us an update on the status of that resource.
Sure. I would be happy to. So, and we're sort of in the, and I was actually quite to my surprise, behind the scenes when I thought our leak map project was on pause, somebody over in our IT area championed the cause and started building me a leak map. And then basically gave it to me and said, here's your map. It's not live. It's a protocol. It's been launched. They're actually doing it across all of our areas or service territory. So they've built some sort of standard leak map reporting that'll also replace, I think, the New York map that we're currently using and eventually roll one out for Rhode Island as well. So the great news is we're going to have a leak map. It's not fancy, but I think it's pretty simple. It's easy to use, provides a lot of good information. And we're going to embed it in a web page. And Brooks and I talked a little bit about this yesterday as well. That's going to have some good content on it, some frequently asked questions about leaks, how we classify them, definitions, terms like LVL that people might not know what they mean. We're going to have leaks. We're going to have there'll be an email address embedded on that web page as well to use if you have a question about a leak on the map. But also information like if you're smelling gas, we want to make sure, and this is always one of the sort of trickiest things, we don't want to discourage people from calling. If they smell gas, you absolutely need to call us and report it. We need to go out and investigate. If your question is more of a nature of like, yep, I got a leak in front of my house, I know what it is. They come out, they tell me it's a grade 3. I just want to know, is it a significant, environmentally significant leak? Do you have a plan to repair it? For those types of questions, there'll be an email address there where you'll be able to click, and plan is hopefully within, at a maximum 5 business days, somebody will get back to you with information about the leak. So this is to not tie up our emergency line with questions that are important but aren't imminent emergencies. But we just want to be really clear, if you're smelling gas, don't click on the email link, call the phone number. So can't reiterate that enough. And I know we talked a little bit about gas, the importance of gas safety and calling in leaks when we had our workshop. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago? At the time, just 2 weeks ago, time flies. And so we want to make sure we've got some good clarity there. We'll also have leaks, and it's important to the claims page, where if you feel there's been some damage done by a gas leak or any other damage done by National Grid, where you can go and submit a claim on the system. So we're not going to make it. I had a hard time hunting to find it. So anyone who says they don't know what to do if they think they've got an issue and they have a claim against National Grid, they don't know where to go. This will make it clear. Just again, you go to the gas leak page, and if you click on that, it will take you to the claim page as well. And then just some other general information about gas safety and gas leaks that we usually provide when we're talking externally about the issues here. So we're hopeful. I've got a meeting with the web team on Friday. And so they're going to give me a preview of what we have. And then Brooks, I think we discussed if we want to get together just with a smaller team to give everybody a preview of what we have. See if you have any suggestions. I wish I had a ton of flexibility on the map itself. That's pretty fixed. But for the content that we have on the page, certainly we'll be looking for your feedback to make sure what we're providing makes sense, that it's again, it was done by our external communications team. So I'm hoping it's in language that the average person who doesn't know a lot about gas leaks will understand. But it's really important to us that what's there is helpful and useful to people. And we'll see how it goes. I know our experience in New York is when we rolled out a map years ago, it had a lot of activity early on. And then I think for the last 2 years, it's had no activity at all. So I don't know if that's not usable or people don't care about the info anymore, but certainly if we're investing time in this, we want to make sure that it's useful.
Great, thanks, Amy. And yeah, I think for me and Anne and Lisa and Audrey, the sort of coordinators, we're definitely looking forward to following up with you and your team to talk more about the next steps. And I think we had a number of members who stepped up to volunteer to be involved in those working groups who may still be interested in participating in some of that stuff. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more from you about the status of that and the plans to roll out those resources and exploring ways that this group can participate and be helpful on that front. So great. I think so. There may be a few other questions in the chat that we didn't get to, and Amy, if you can and want to answer those, I think that would be great. And if folks want to follow up, if there are any questions that we didn't get to, feel free to email me, bwinner@mapc.org, and I can pass those along to Amy, or you can email them directly to Amy herself. As she mentioned, her email address is just amy.smith@nationalgrid.com. And thank you for the great questions and discussion in the chat. So with that, I think we have some time for I guess we have a little bit more time for open discussion. Lisa, do we want to go through the dates for the next year's update webinars?
Sure, we can. Why don't we first do the poll? I'm thinking that might be something we could just quickly run through. And I'm also, just while you're pulling up the poll, Brooks, I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of an event that I'm putting in the chat. This is a conference this coming Saturday, December 5th, from 1 to 3:30, sponsored by the Gas Leaks Allies, Northeastern University Social Science Environmental Health Institute, and the Clark University Marsh Institute. It's on gas leaks and energy justice, a virtual conference linking civic service science to the push for a just transition. And I included the registration link and some information about it. So please feel free to take a look at that. And then we wanted, so are you ready with the poll, Brooks?
Yes, I can launch the poll, and maybe Pat, I see you with your actual and virtual hands up. So maybe I'll open the poll, and maybe Lisa, do you want to just talk through what the options mean, and then while folks are filling it out, we'll go to Pat for your question, comments. Does that work?
Sounds good. So the idea here is to just get some feedback from you all on what topics you'd like us to focus on for our next meeting in January, which will be January 28th. These are ideas we got from some of you and also from discussions among ourselves. But if you have other ideas, you're invited to put those in the chat. So gas safety is just, we're talking about having the gas safety group from the Gas Leaks Allies come and lead a discussion that would be about practical measures towns can take to improve gas safety, and also reviewing the recommendations from the January 2020 Dynamic Risk Report that was commissioned by the Baker administration. Mapping gas leaks, this is an initiative of HEET. They've been working with several municipalities to create maps that show local gas leak data on town websites. And we get a demo of the incredible work they've been doing in Salem to create gas leaks hub and maps that show what the situation is there with a lot of auxiliary information about leaks. Metrics for success. This is a strategy discussion to consider how we can measure our progress with National Grid. And then the GSEP program, we've been talking already today about this and taking a deeper dive and looking at that. HEET has also created maps of the GSEP reports. So that gives us a kind of visual of what the scale of the work is ahead. So those are the 4 options. Again, please feel free to add other things into the chat if you have other topics you'd like to cover, and you can pick more than one thing. So you don't have to just choose. Oh no.
Actually, yeah, I think Lisa, we decided to make it just one,
Yes, that's right.
one choice because we could cover all of these topics at some point over the course of the next year, but please pick the one that you're most interested in talking about at a meeting in January.
Right, sorry, thank you. So yes, your top choice. But we probably will cover all these topics, and we may cover more than one at our January meeting as well.
All right, so it looks like folks are starting to fill that out. Thank you. And thanks, Lisa, for that overview of what those topics, a little bit more about what they mean. Pat, question, comment for you while folks are filling in their answers?
Just a comment, and I put the information in the chat. SAFE, Salem Alliance for the Environment, will be presenting Audrey Schulman, who will talk about geothermal microgrids at our meeting tonight at 6:30. It's a 1-hour meeting, so there will be plenty of time for more discussion about geothermal microgrids with Audrey. So I encourage you to check out the Zoom link, which is in the chat, and join us tonight.
Thanks, Pat. If you couldn't get enough of Audrey in her brief presentation earlier today, you can enjoy a full hour brought to you by the good folks in Salem. Great. Okay, so we have a few folks who still have yet to vote. I guess another question that came in for you, let's see, is Amy still around? Maybe not. She might have had to jump off at 1 o'clock.
No, I'm actually here.
Yeah,
I'm still here.
Just sort of general discussion. Mark Sandine from Lexington was asking if you have any thoughts or comments on ideal locations for the Geo Microdistrict pilot that you guys have applied for.
Yeah, so I know we had chatted a little bit about this too. What I would really love to do is schedule a separate meeting and bring in my subject matter experts who are working on the geothermal pilot, and the other, it's one of 3 sort of future HEET pilot proposals that we have in our rate case. So Owen Brady Terzic, who I think some of you know, and Lee Gresham are the presenters in our rate case on those issues. So I'd love to schedule and have them available to tell you about the stuff and answer your questions. But in general, and I came in right on the tail end of Audrey's presentation on this, and there were some questions about you building these districts in lieu of a main replacement project versus a new development. And so here's the thing I would tell you from our perspective, it's going to be much easier to pilot using a new development because it doesn't require convincing a whole bunch of people who now have gas to give it up and to spend money to replace all the equipment in their homes and change over. But when we're building a brand new development, right, putting in an alternate form of energy delivery, then people who move into that development may choose to live there because of the alternate form, but they certainly it won't bear any incremental cost to the homeowners or business owners retrofit their equipment. So it's a much easier sell to stand up a pilot quickly. And so from that standpoint, we have some experience doing that in Long Island for National Grid, where there was actually a whole group of customers who wanted gas, and we couldn't affordably extend the gas system to them. And we built a geothermal district there, and they've been very happy with it. It's been pretty successful. So that, from our perspective, it's easier. It may not be, so sort of from a long-term decarbonization strategy, it might not be your preference, but it certainly would be something to kind of get the technology up and running here in Massachusetts and get some experience and learn from it without that additional, actions that we'd have to take to convince entire groups of people to make the switch. So.
And Amy, I totally agree. It is always easier in new developments. But we will have to deal with existing buildings at some point.
Yep.
So, ideally it would be both mixed, new developments and old. And Alicia, sorry, is it okay if I just ask Alicia's question?
Yep, I see the question here.
Okay.
So I don't know. So I may have misspoke. So I don't know if, again, I am not the subject matter expert on this stuff. And I don't know whether from a pilot perspective, we would envision paying to convert the equipment in customers' homes. And we may very well be, from a pilot perspective, from a long-term perspective of using geothermal microdistricts as an alternative to main replacement and having it go beyond, a smaller number of homes. I think that's one of those topics that will be taken up in the DPU's future of the gas system investigation that they've just launched, because it's one of those affordability issues of who actually should pay for customers not to use gas. Should it be other gas customers? Should it be funded through some other type of mechanism? So there's a whole regulatory piece to it. I think from a pilot perspective, the DPU, as they saw in the Eversource case, is willing to let some gas customer money be spent to see if this model can work in Massachusetts and people can stay warm in their homes and cool in the summer with it. But I think from a long-term perspective, right, there's all sorts of issues that have to be addressed to make it there. So I very likely have misspoken here, so please don't take my word as final.
Okay, that's helpful, Amy, and I think we would be, at least maybe a subset of the folks on this call would be interested in having a more in-depth conversation with you all about what that pilot ends up looking like and what are the details that are under consideration in the rate case and that sort of thing.
Right.
So
we'd love to do that. And there is actually a gas leaks proposal in there as well, which maybe next quarterly update, we can cover that as well around some mechanisms to help us fund more non-hazardous, non-environmentally significant grade 3 leak repairs. So we can talk about.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just gonna, in terms of next steps and where we go from here, I'm gonna end last call for poll responses. Anybody not voted, speak now or forever hold your peace. I do not see anybody else voting. All right, so we'll end the polling. It looks like folks are most interested in gas leak mapping with geocoded data. So looks that's good news or bad news for HEET. You guys will continue to play starring roles in these meetings. And looks like there's also some interest in learning more about the GSEP. So yeah, so I think Anne and Lisa and Leah and Audrey, Dom and I will all sort of take this really helpful feedback from you all and formulate a plan for the agenda for our community meeting. So we haven't had a meeting with just community members and municipal folks since September of 2019, I guess. It's been a while because of all of the craziness with COVID. So we want to get back together with you all on January 28th. So that'll be the first Multi-Town Gas Leaks Initiative meeting of 2021. And then we're going to plan to continue these webinars on a quarterly basis in February, May, August, and November. And we're aiming, these are tentative dates. As Amy mentioned, she's often getting called to testify before the DPU, either here in Massachusetts or in Rhode Island. So these are all subject to change, but we wanted to just kind of get on a regular schedule with you all. So mark your calendars for the dates there on the schedule. We were aiming for the 4th Thursday of every month, except obviously not on Thanksgiving. So that was our thinking there. So these are all Thursdays. They'll be in the same noon to 1:15 or so time slot.
Except for January.
Except for January, which we set the time for that?
Yeah,
meeting?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Yeah. So January 28th will be 11 a.m. I think we're planning to do 90 minutes for that one. And then the webinars will all be 75 minutes from noon to 1:15. So anything else we want to mention before we wrap up? It's 1:15. We appreciate you all for sticking around. Anything else, Anne or Lisa, you wanted to cover before we wrap?
I think we're all set. Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
I hope before the year is out, we can see people in person at Arlington Town Hall or something.
Yeah. With
Maybe.
some actual conversation, and yeah, that would be great. I hope for that too, Anne. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll be following up with slides and recording links to all of you and the folks who couldn't make it today. But thanks so much for joining us. Stay well and happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thanks.